Talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate, to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay on ubnradio.com.
And welcome. You are listening to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios with my Universal Broadcasting Network station on Tuesdays, and then now on Thursdays, NBC News Radio syndicated KCAA AM 1050 in Loma Linda. And that is Thursdays at 7 for your drive home. And I'm so glad that you're here with me today. And it is that last Tuesday and Thursday of the month where we have my special series called Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, the new Asian Dr. Ruth. And I'd like to remind you to thank, I'm doing things out of order today, my fabulous team, both at KCAA and at UBN, for all their work. And Tony, my station manager, and Jarvis Essex, my sound engineer and assistant producer. And, of course, at KCAA, Mia, and also Paul and Carlos. So that's for this show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K words, no Kardashian talk at all. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and not the K, so that you can be happy 88% of the time. And sexual healing is one of those areas where I think it can either really make you happy or really make you unhappy. And so I was thinking, we've been talking about pleasure, and I'm determined to make pleasure a G-rated or a G-spot rated topic. So I've had wonderful guests on to look at the woman side of things and how to bring more pleasure in the bedroom in your life. And I was thinking, also, how do we heal from things? How do we actually have pleasure in the bedroom when there's been a betrayal? And cheating in marriages, cheating in relationships, period, is a topic that I thought, let's just put this moose on the table, my Canadian version of elephant in the room, and talk about how do you actually heal? Can you actually heal from infidelity or cheating from a partner, or if you yourself has cheated? And I thought, now who can I ask on who's an expert of this? And there's no other person I could have asked than one of my favorite people on the planet, because he was my marriage therapist actually years ago. I won't say how many years ago, but I know he's really great. He was the person that I went to say, have I done everything I could to stay in this marriage? And we actually worked with him for 2-3 years, I believe, and I got that answer definitively answered so that I could divorce with love. And we still keep in touch. I know he's been doing fabulous things, and I wanted to bring him on the air too to find out what he's been doing. But please welcome to the studio Mr. Todd Creager, who's been on OWN, on TV. He's the author of a fabulous book called The Long Smoking Hot Marriage. Actually, I think it's just The Long Hot Marriage. But welcome to the studio, Todd.
Nice to be here.
Oh, it's always good to connect with you. I don't see you as often now that I don't go to you because I'm not married anymore. Don't need a marriage therapist, but
I know.
But it's a good thing. I'm so glad that you were able to come in as my guest co-host. You are my first male guest co-host on this
honored.
series, as you should be, and as you are. I couldn't think of a better person to come into that.
That's great.
So let's just jump right into the topic. Of the things that I hear from people, infidelity is one of the ones where I hear more often than not, I can forgive and get over pretty much anything but that.
Right.
And if my insignificant other, if my mate cheats on me, that's it. There's just no question about it. It's over. It's done. And then I also hear from clients and friends who say, it's even if I wanted to forgive, I can't, because I cannot seem to get over that act. And trying to heal in the bedroom after being cheated on or even cheating is just one of those things that it's almost unfathomable. So I wanted to bring you on to actually talk about how it is possible, because I know that I don't know if I believe it yet, but I know that I believe that you work with couples and they are able to get over it. But personally, I couldn't see it. So help me with that.
Sure. Well, absolutely true that some people might have that feeling and that they make that decision. It's done, one and done. That is it. And I have found people that say that oftentimes when faced with it, it's not so simple. Actually, I know this sounds a little bit wild and maybe a little bragging, but I'm just telling you what I've seen is that I have about a 90% success rate with couples that have had infidelity. And what I mean by success is not just that they survive, but they actually literally learn to thrive. That their relationship becomes better than it was before the whole affair happened. And I've been really doing a lot of work with that and training other psychotherapists and how to help couples in this situation, because I have found that it is possible. But having said that, Marissa, I have to honor what people want. And there are times people are going to come in and say, I'll try it, but I don't see it. And they just decide they can't get over it. I know that a lot of times you have people that it's stuck in their mind. That's just the idea. They may not know what that other person looks like, but they have this, this thing in their mind, this image in their mind of their partner making love or having intercourse or whatever they did together.
Right.
And so that's a tough one. That is a tough one. There's no question it's a tough one.
Because isn't it indicative though that it isn't working? Like so for me, where you think of trying as hard as you can, but wouldn't it just be easier to start over than to be with someone that you just constantly have that picture in your head?
Well, sometimes, but let's set up the scenario where you've been together for 12 years. You have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. You really do care and love each other. And this happens, and the person, the woman, let's say in this case, the woman is the one who's betrayed, the man cheated. I have had 50-50 at times in my practice.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, I've had 50-50.
Yeah, I pulled up some statistics actually that.
Well, I'm interested in what you have. I can tell you in my practice right now, it's not. It's 80-20 and men cheating. So it's more what people would think. But in the past, it's been 50-50, even sometimes tilting more towards the women cheating. But at the moment, it's 80-20. I get a lot. That's a big part of what people call for these days.
Right.
So I have a pretty good sample, and it is more men right now. Reason. But, I think the main key is you have these people, let's say in this example, they have a 7-year-old and a 9-year-old. They love each other. This happens. She is absolutely stunned. She cannot believe it. Or maybe she's not so stunned, but she was in denial. It could be that way too. Sometimes their relationship was slowly deteriorating, but this was like, I still can't believe you did this.
Right.
The man in this example is scared. He doesn't want to lose his partner. He realized he's made a mistake. He's wanting to understand what was behind all this. And I have come up with 10 different factors of what can cause someone to cheat. And so I try to help them look at the infidelity as a symptom. So we're not minimizing the pain of the person who's betrayed.
Right.
And she, in this case, needs to know that. I get it. And that I honor her choice to stay or to leave. Either one.
Right.
That let's not demonize the betrayer either. And let's look at what's really going on. It's just what I do. So my lens through which I look at it is probably different than the average person, because I have seen people who, for example, let's say one of the common factors with men is affirmation.
Okay.
So you look at that. They have a need for affirmation. They have a father. Let's say I'm thinking of an actual case, so that's why I'm running off my lips like this.
Okay.
So you have this father who was very critical, and the words that pretty much hypnotized him was, "You'll never amount to anything," and that was the words that sticked in his brain. So he compensated, became very successful in his career, married a nice lady, have two beautiful children, and yet she gets busy. She has her own issues that we're dealing with her as well, where she put her pleasure on hold. He starts to feel like she's not going up to him and gushing about him and saying you're wonderful. And he goes to work, and this woman at work tells him how handsome he is. This woman says how great he is at his job. And because he's going around with this feeling of inadequacy inside, and his wife and him kind of unconsciously haven't addressed that, suddenly he slips into this mode. He starts to do, he didn't, this particular person didn't get far. He still had a secret. He texted this woman, they met for lunch, and they kissed. And he was caught at that point by a text. And so we're looking at it as, is the problem the infidelity? Or is the problem that he goes around with a feeling of inadequacy? And if we could work on that issue, and he starts to demonstrate to his wife that he's working on that issue, and that we look at ways she can appreciate him more, but still it's his main responsibility, but she can appreciate him more. And suddenly they are starting to feel their attraction again, more than they had for years before he actually did this extramarital event. Right. So that's just an example of how, I mean, she still has feelings about it. She's still hurt at times and angry.
Yeah, I that's the part where it's just I mean, I can't think of a more fundamental betrayal. A contract that says till death do you part. Right. And yet, I was stunned by the statistics, like 51% admit to. It's like, I don't get that. So if it is such a fundamental betrayal, I get what you're saying, that it's understandable. And I tell my listeners all the time when we do relationship stuff that it's the woman's it's the woman's job to quit hen pecking and criticizing and being negative about the man. I mean, that I've said many times on sexual healing shows, that's our responsibility. If we want them to please us, then we have to do our part. So I'm not saying that isn't true, but at what point isn't it the guy's like, hey, I'm not, instead of doing that, instead of going and, I mean, that responsibility or that choice or decision, that consequence, why would, and I'm just playing devil's advocate because I can, why would she want to go and not, doesn't he own all of it?
He owns all of it. He owns the whole behavior.
Okay.
and she has to own her part of it. So he's 100% responsible, but she needs to look at, for example, in this particular situation, how much she's avoided touch, how much she has resisted her own body. And so there are things for her to learn. So it's a fine line. We are not saying she's responsible at all for his decisions, but she is responsible. See, once we understand what the underlying issues are, then she is responsible to help that underlying issue be healed. That, I believe, is a couple's issue. His cheating is his issue. It's his choice. I mean, he could have done other things. He could have called me up and said, oh my God, this is what's going on with me. I'm starting to feel drawn to this other woman. I'm concerned about my feelings. And he could have cut it off before it happened, right? I mean, he could have done that. Right. He's totally responsible for his decision. But in terms of resolving the real issue, to me, which is in his case, this need for affirmation, and in her case, this need to slow down and reconnect with her femininity, then that's what we need to do. And she's responsible for reconnecting with her feminine nature and allowing him to be there for her and allowing him to feel like he matters to her. And he needs to express his feelings, not hide, share his positive and negative feelings, be engaged. And don't do that. Just don't do that.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. The
So, yeah.
the
So,
the
I mean,
antithesis to the Nike gospel according to Nike. Don't
right,
do that.
right. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's the anti-Nike. Don't do
Right.
that.
But
But
okay.
I mean, I say this that oftentimes we have to look at, like, there's several men and women that I'm working with right now where I have to say this, and I have no scientific grounds for this.
Mhm.
Maybe it's just intuition. But some of these men, I have this person and a few in my head that are truly in the path of growth and facing and being with their partner. I think that they have less chance of having an affair again than a man just in the general population who has never cheated yet. Because to me, that's the difference, that they are willing to face their own issues, their own fears, their own deficits in
Mhm.
growing up, whatever it is.
Mhm.
And to me, they're a better risk than someone in the general population who just hasn't hit that crisis point yet.
I can agree with that. I can definitely see that as the umbrella too of what I call the opportunity in a midlife crisis. That in that time of unrest or your unsettledness, you
Yeah,
can ask those questions. So why isn't my relationship as hot as I want it to be?
absolutely.
It doesn't
Now,
have to be this unhot. And
it
so what do
doesn't.
I need to do? So let me ask you to go back. You said there's 10 possible reasons
Yes.
of why, and it's intriguing because when I was thinking about it, I came up with two extremes. So one extreme is the kind of person, whether you're a man or a woman, who it's almost like that addict kind of mentality. You
Yes.
know you shouldn't do it. You know there's going to be dire consequences. You know that this is not the brightest crayon in the box move. It's, really bad, but you do it anyways. It's
Right.
that compulsion and you do it anyways. And then you're like, really sorry, but it's too late. That's one. And then the other extreme is the one I think you're talking about, which is you're really not you're not happy in the relationship.
Yeah.
And there's whether you've tried to talk about it and it doesn't do any good. I'm shocked at the number of couples that I know who are together. They don't want to be married. Neither wants
Right.
to be married, or one
Right.
really doesn't want to be married, but they stay together either for the kids or because financially it doesn't make sense
Yes.
to
That's the sad. That's
and
sad.
it's sad.
Yeah, it is.
I
It is.
don't get that. I just, it's like I get it, but I don't get
Yeah, no,
it.
I think everyone has it. I always look at it this way. As far as I know, I have one life as me, at least in this body, and I want to live it. I want to be as much of who I am as possible.
Right.
So if I'm in a relationship that I am less of who I am because of the relationship, I have to shrink who I am. I have to adapt,
Right.
and my partner's not willing to work on him or herself. Well, that's a tough way to go. And
Yeah,
then,
yeah,
so
and
they're
then
imprisoned.
they're in prison, and then they have. I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was doing research and I found that site. Somebody had told me Ashley Madison.
Oh
that
yeah, I
it's
get emails from them. I don't know why I'm on that list. I'm on the
but
list.
but their
30 years now.
byline is life is short, have an affair.
Fair. Be discreet.
And to me it's like, okay, so let's get into a broader discussion then, which is something that I have like kind of tiptoed around in doing this series because I'm just kind of talking about things that I shouldn't necessarily be talking about if I am spiritual, which you would think is kind of like religious, but I totally don't buy into the obviously I'm happily divorced, so obviously I'm okay with divorce.
Right.
That there's only one person and it's only one soulmate, and no matter what, you stay together even if there's cheating or even if there's abuse or what, absolutely not. But then the balance with, I'm also not an advocate of having a series of hookups.
Right.
And last series, a special when I was on here with Colette G and a holistic love coach, we got into it about Tinder because to her that's like a hookup app, and to me it's not a hookup app. It's not. It's a
No, I don't know enough about it, so
it's
I
match on steroids is what I call it. It's a cross between speed dating, Plenty of Fish in the Sea and Match on Steroids, where you get a very with my schedule, I don't have a lot of time, but you know, it's still you make sure they're not into hookups, but it's just another way to get to know people, to date, and to see if there's a relationship or not.
Right.
But I'm not into serial hookups. That's the balance of the, you know, on one side only one and stay no matter what, and the other side just have a series of meaningless hookups. So those are the two extremes.
Right.
Where and you're always my example of happily married, and make your marriage as great as it can be for the rest of your life. And that's you're my stake on that. I'm on the other side, where it's like, I have a book of romance and I don't know how many chapters are going to be, but every chapter is not a good chapter or a bad chapter. It's just a chapter, and I've learned something from every single relationship. And just because a relationship doesn't last forever doesn't mean it's a failed relationship.
Really not.
So there we are, sort of straddling that middle ground.
Well, there's a lot of rules, and you know, we try to make life, which is pretty complex, and we are complex, into way too simple answers. And everyone has a different path, different process. But we got to do what ultimately makes us feel good and right. And if you're in a marriage that doesn't make you feel right, then it's time to leave it. I'm just saying that oftentimes my stance is, let's try to see what we can do to keep the relationship together, even with infidelity. But if it's not right for a person, whether it's infidelity or some other reason, or I've just grown out of this relationship, then we need to follow a deeper soul. So I always say that, you know, we have this simplistic view of spirituality, but our soul kind of complicates things sometimes. And we need to allow for, let's be the best person I can be. But does it mean that the only good people are the ones that don't have abortions? Or, you know, I mean, we could get into I mean, we're always looking for, that could be a whole new realm.
Yeah. We don't have time.
What I'm saying is that life is not so black and white. So
True.
We gotta be kind to ourselves and look what's right for us. True. And
right, but I do advocate, you know, if your marriage is, if you're not 88% happy with that person, don't leave. Go to someone like you, and I absolutely endorse you, because I went in. I remember the 3 years that we spent with you were trying everything possible to be able to stay together because of the kids. And at the end of the third year, I can remember calling you and saying, okay, this is what's happened. Do I have permission to leave? Do you remember that call?
I do remember that call. I really do.
Yeah. And you said, you know, based on the work that you've done, yes. And so I know that it was very important for me to be able to look in my children's eyes and tell them, and I still do, I did everything I could possibly do to try to stay together. And you know, they're 17 and 15 beautiful girls. And now, you know, every once in a while they'll say, you know, I don't even know how you guys made it as long as you did, because you're so different, and other things. And again, you know, he's a great dad. I'm a great mom. And we, you know, it works. And it is truly, but I guess my message is, if you are not happy 88% of the time in a relationship, it is a lot harder to try to make it work after you cheat. So obviously that first place to go is to try to take that midlife crisis as an opportunity to figure out.
And here's, you know, I try to help people do what they really want to do and not beat themselves up for whatever decision they make. Some women, for example, they go, if I go back and I accept him back in my life, aren't I not being good to me? And they beat themselves up for it. I don't want to be, you know, I don't want to be the sap here that lets him walk all over me. And I understand that. And sometimes, again, the women in this example, she's the one betrayed. It's not always that way. She may need to kick him out for a while, just to have a boundary, so she feels like she has some integrity. But ultimately, I help them realize that they're free to do what they want to do, even if it's to give their partner another chance. They shouldn't beat themselves up for giving their partner another chance, nor should they beat themselves up for leaving. That they're all viable choices, and they make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get back with him, there's got to be the reason is that there's reason to trust. It's one of the things we want to look at. And how we do that is we look at the partner's behavior, the partner's willingness to look at the underlying emotional drives that pushed them there in the first place. Like I said, there's 10. I hear what you're saying about the 2. Yeah, but there are, sometimes it could be an addiction. Sometimes, like you said, it could be an issue between the couple, but there are ways people act out feelings. There's ambivalence that people don't talk about directly. I think people have this crazy idea that they should never have mixed feelings about being married, so they don't talk. I think one of the biggest problems we have as couples is our role models didn't show us how to share and talk about things that are hard to talk about. So we don't talk about these things, and then we get more and more secretive. I can't tell my partner I'm angry. I can't tell my partner that I like people that have boots on. I'm just thinking, but
Okay, I kind of think I know where you're going with that.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that every let me say it this way: to maximize the probability that infidelity doesn't happen, the more open we are, the more transparent we are with our partner, the more we can tolerate the fact that I want to be able to say to my wife, we had this great conversation a few weeks ago. And it was the night before I gave a talk to therapists on infidelity. We were driving home from some friend's house, and she was saying, we were both saying how much we like this couple, and they're really one of our closest couple friends. And she says, but God, she cut her hair so short. And I said, yeah. She's not someone I'd be attracted to. Well, that kind of parlayed it into, well, who in our group would you be attracted to? And it was such a kind of a fun, freeing conversation to talk about, I talked about this one woman who, if I wasn't married and she wasn't married, there's no question I would go after her. I don't know if she'd go return it, but I would go after her in a heartbeat. Really? Yeah. And it was fun to just share it. I wouldn't act on it.
That was fun.
It was fun. It's no big deal.
Okay, now I'm beginning to wonder.
It's no big deal. She's like, she knows that. See, here's the difference. Okay. My wife knows that I am attracted to her, and she knows I wouldn't ask couples to have this conversation if they're having a lot of discord, if they're sexually not connected, emotionally not connected. But when you develop that connection, isn't it nice? And I'm not saying that I have to share every little thought I have that, I like this woman I saw in Ralph's. I'm not saying that. But wouldn't it be nice to be able to share parts of me? And it was fun, because we're not threatened by.
I think you're at grad school 301. I don't know necessarily if that is the level that I am accustomed to. And if you've just tuned in and wondering what the heck Dr. Marissa is talking about and who she's talking to, you are tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa. And if it's Tuesday, you're on UBN. On Thursday, it's KCAA. And I am talking to my own past marriage family therapist who really helped me answer the question, have I done everything possible to stay married? And now that I'm happily divorced, you know the answer to that question. And we're talking about infidelity in this sexual healing series. And we're going to be right back because I'm going to ask him the question, if we've cheated and have not been caught, should we still say something? So be right back after a word from our sponsors. Be back in 2 and 2.
Did you know that women are capable of over 11 different kinds of orgasms, and yet 87% of women are sexually unsatisfied? Did you know that 9 out of 10 couples desire deeper intimacy in and out of the bedroom? If you desire more pleasure, better orgasms, and a more sacred sensual connection, visit DeviWardTantra.com and get your free female orgasm guide to uncover the top 3 blocks preventing you from having the pleasure, intimacy, and orgasms you crave. That's DeviWardTantra.com.
How do you prepare a young teen for the sexual culture they're growing up in today? Science teacher Dave Beck's hilarious and harrowing book, They Asked You What?, does just that. It gives the student, their parents, and teachers the knowledge and tools to deal with the reality of today's overwhelmingly sexual American culture. And it's a great, fun, thoughtful read. Read it yourself. Give it to your teen and/or their teachers. Available for Kindle download and softcover purchase at Amazon.com.
And we're back. You are tuned in to Take My Advice, I'm Not Using It, Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI, and a quick thank you And shout out to all of the fabulous people that I met this past weekend at the Make It in America conference and the Asian Heritage Award. And thank you, Dr. Louise Kelly, for nominating me for that. And it was a spectacular event. I had a blast. I am suffering from lower back pains because I had on not good shoes, but that's what happens with vanity. But it was a wonderful event, and thank you so much, listeners, for helping me break the 40,000 listener mark, as well as almost 400,000 podcasts downloaded on my show, which has only been around for 2.5 years. So thank you, xie xie in Mandarin, which is my Chinese namaste. And today it is Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa series, and we have on the incredible, fabulous, wonderful friend and formerly known as my marriage therapist, Todd Creager, on the line. And we've been talking about cheating, and is it possible to get to heal sexually, physically, emotionally from infidelity? And the answer right now is yes. For 90% of the couples that Todd has seen who are willing to look at and own their side of the street when it comes to how that went in. Now, is it important, and is there a number of times you're allowed to bash the partner that cheated before you have to let it go? Because I can't even imagine how you could possibly have any kind of a relationship in and out of bed if we keep bringing that up.
That's a great question. That's a great question. You ask good questions.
Thank you.
I think here's what I tell people. Again, I'm just using the man cheating, but like I said, it could go either way. But I have couples that come into my head as you're asking me this question. But I have had a man who said, "How often do I have to listen to her say how she doesn't trust me,
right.
And she asks me questions about what happened?" And I say to him, as long as she asks the question. So here's the thing. She's going to ask the question. She's going to bring up her anger. She's going to want to know more. He needs to respond to it. The more he responds and the more he listens, eventually that organically is going to decrease.
Mm-hmm. If he reacts well. If he says, how many times am I going to have to hear this? Or in his body language or in his reaction, or if you can't let this go, then let's just call it quits. Because if that is the feeling tone,
right,
then I don't think they're ready to move on. I don't think it's going to work.
Well, again, we all have feelings, we have feelings in our relationship. Sometimes feelings that are unresolved, not perfectly resolved. Maybe one partner is angry at the other person because they're always messy or they spend too much money. This is a more serious one. I get that, infidelity. But in terms of feelings don't necessarily break up relationships as long as we stay connected. So if a person, we make feelings so big, but if a person has the wife in this case, betrayed, she says, "I am so mad at you.
Right.
I just saw this commercial and it was a picture of Hawaii and that's where you had that affair. And it just brought up all my anger all over again." His best response is, "I could understand. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine. You see that? You picture me with this other person? Of course."
Mm-hmm.
Now, that's not something most men would do, but I teach them.
Yeah.
They have to do that.
Good.
Now, that guy.
And women, too. And let's balance it out.
That
you
women
know,
too. We
I think you're right.
Our
I think
knee-jerk reaction is to get defensive.
Yeah.
But if we could learn to stay open when we want to close and stop protecting ourselves and just letting our partner have the experience they're having, which in this case, in the moment, is anger, that anger will pass. Nobody stays angry when they're hurt.
Mm-hmm.
They're angry and then it passes. Maybe they'll have a great day and they'll go have a picnic and then they'll make love. And then maybe 2 days later, she sees the same commercial. She gets angry again. Does that mean that the relationship is over because she's angry? The key is for him to understand her, to listen, to honor her. And ultimately, yes, for her to honor him and realize that, he's not a cheater. He's a person who cheated. And
right.
That's what we have to ultimately come to.
Yeah, it's a tough nut to swallow. I
Yes?
mean, whoops.
Yeah.
It's
wow. But that's great.
I'm not going. Don't react, Jarvis.
I'm not. I'm not.
I
So,
know you're not. My assistant producer's on the floor.
Oh.
And that wasn't purposeful for a change. So, anyways, okay. Now let's get to the other question,
Yes.
which is
You're gonna ask me another hard question.
another hard question.
Yes.
If you have cheated, if you're the partner who has cheated, and you have not been caught,
Yes.
should you say something? Should you, full disclosure?
That's the question that makes me shiver.
Yeah.
I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I have several values, and some of these values sometimes conflict.
Mm-hmm.
One of my most important values is 100% total honesty.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the wife, in this case, or the husband, deserves it. See, I think infidelity is a human rights violation. I do. I think that if I'm
Whether
cheating,
you're caught or not.
what?
Whether you're caught or not.
Whether I'm caught or not, it's a human rights violation
Mm-hmm.
because I am doing things that if my partner knew about it, she may make different decisions. If I'm driving on an intersection, I need to use my eyes and my ears to know what's going on and get information so I know what to do to take care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm in a relationship and I assume he's honest or she's honest and faithful, and I base my decisions day in and day out on that, and yet that person is doing something else and keeping the secret, which is the real issue, then I'm being robbed of my ability to make a good decision. So that's a very important value I have.
But
the other value I have is, because I do this work for over 32 years now, people make changes and they can improve.
Mm-hmm.
So if a person comes to see me, and this has happened, not that often, usually people come in because they've been caught, but I've had a few come in that says, I haven't been caught, I don't want to do it anymore. I want to work on this stuff. I commit myself to never seeing this other person again. I don't think my wife needs to know about it because if she did, I don't know how she'll handle it.
Right. You may not have the option of staying.
Yeah, I may not. I'm not going to say, no, you got to tell her. That is not my problem. That is not my decision to make. That's his.
No.
And I would have a much harder time if he continued the relationship or didn't, but if he's coming in and all the other factors kind of fall into place where he's working on it, then it's not a perfect situation to me because he'll always have that secret. But I say to him, well, I'll tell you what, especially if I know the wife. So I'll only work with you if you behave in ways that, at least from this point forward, there are no secrets. So it's a tricky question.
Yeah.
And yet,
I'm with you on the latter. I believe honesty is important to me, but brutal honesty and 100% honesty all the time, I don't. It's that it depends gray area. That
what's the best possible solution in this case? Now, one thing I could say is that if the wife knows 14% of it, it might be better to know 100% of it. I've had people's relationships only start to work out after he finally didn't tell her half of it, but all of it. Sometimes that's when it's like, now you're believable. It's like women's intuition.
Right.
Now I believe you at least. So until I believe you, until I know only some of it, but you're holding back, how can I ever open up? I still get that feeling inside of me. Yeah. It's like right brain to right brain communication. I know you're holding out, and that doesn't work.
Right. Okay, so let me look. Here's what I found on. Just you haven't heard statistics in a while. I'm here to enlighten you with them, just because I want your take.
Sure.
This is from the statistics brain. So, percent of marriages where one or both spouses admit to infidelity, either physical or emotional, 41%. I was surprised that it was that high. Percent of men.
I'm surprised it's that low, but anyway.
Really? Yeah. Okay. Percent of men who admit to committing infidelity in any relationship they've had, 57%. Percentage of women, 54%, which is, like you were saying, it's close. Yeah. It's not, the disparity's not there. Percent of married men who have strayed at least once during their married lives, 22%. So they're making a distinction between relationship and marriage. And then married women who've strayed, 14%. So there's a little bit more disparity. Yes. So let's go esoterical here. So I hear from several men now that because that's just the way men are, and that fidelity is not natural, They're not saying this to me as a date. They're saying this as a client. So just in case you think they don't want to be faithful to me. But the if that's true, and that's men want to plant their seeds, and it's the way I heard it best described is men's primary desire is to be free, and women's primary desire is to have security. Right. So then they use that as an argument. Why bother with the quote unquote sanctity of marriage? Right. If that is, why do we have this contract? Okay, religion aside. So more and more people are going away from religion. I haven't seen the statistic if that, the whole common law. A relationship is a relationship. Infidelity is infidelity, whether you're married or not. But I just was curious as to your take on this contract, and if the contract itself is leading to this issue.
Yes, that's a good question. I have actually strong thoughts about that. I'm not wishy-washy on this one. Mm-hmm. I know there's a lot of gray areas in life, but here's the way I look at it. I think the contract is crucial and important. Now, it could be a marriage contract. It could be two people just making a contract on their honor that they will be exclusive. But I do think that there's a certain freedom in being able to date and pollinate as many women, or I guess be pollinated by as many men as a person wants. But there's another kind of freedom when you're in a committed relationship where there's fidelity, where there's faithfulness. There's the freedom of developing depth. I have not found it work, whether you're talking about swinging and open relationships or infidelity. It just doesn't work. It creates more pain than pleasure, ultimately in the long term. That's just my experience of what I've seen, my observations. Mm-hmm. So there's a certain freedom. For example, even my subject, which I know can provoke some controversy about with my wife about who would you be attracted to.
Right.
We have a certain freedom to be all of who we are, different than acting on it though, because we have a sacred contract, the two of us. That's not going to work, and it just doesn't work. Okay. We're not wired. Maybe our attachment to each other there's such a need that when you are actually involved in some physical encounter or even emotionally intimate encounter with another person, it just doesn't work for us, especially when there's a secret involved. So
the light bulb just went off.
I understand. Okay.
Let me share my light bulb as I used to do with you all the time. But because I've been grappling with this, I don't want to get married again, but I do want to have a meaningful relationship, but I don't have a lot of time. Dr. Pat Allen told me to take a lover, and I've been, I don't know if I can do that because to have the intimate sex, it's difficult to do it when you don't have a relationship. But then, I don't have time to find the relationship, blah, 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 blah. So I've been in this quandary, and what you just said, instead of seeing marriage as the BS that we sometimes do, the belief system around the ball and chain.
Yes.
Okay. And what you continue to raise up in your book and your talks and all the things that you represent is there's a juiciness.
Yes.
That you can only get in a committed relationship. I got it.
That's right.
I got it. So you can have pleasure.
Yes.
You can certainly have pleasure in and out of a committed relationship, but you don't get the depth or the juicy depth.
That's right.
That comes with sex in a committed relationship. I got it.
You have the freedom to have depth, but you have to do the work and pay attention. But the potential is right there for the taking. And then we can live without pollinating a lot of other people because we have something really great here,
Yeah, I get that.
I have my gym. There's a 73-year-old Italian man from Brooklyn. I'm a Jewish guy from Brooklyn. We have a good time. He's never been married. I'm not saying that his path was any inferior path to my path. It's a different path. Mm-hmm. He's had freedom to do that, but I cannot at all minimize the freedom that I feel in terms of being committed and to be able to be more and more of who I am with a partner. And then that, of course, is when I talk about in the long, hot marriage, learning to be playful, learning to experiment in and out of the bedroom. So there are, this whole theme about men need to pollinate. There are some evolutionary reason for that, but it just doesn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And in the long term, I think there are better ways we can go.
Mm-hmm.
And
So,
commitment helps.
how do people who want to find the juiciness in their marriage find you, or in their relationship? It's not just marriage, but in
Sure,
any
marriage or
relationship.
even
How
helping
do they
people
find you,
find that
Todd?
soulmate. I do that as well. But yeah, my website's probably the best. It's it's toddcreager.com. I was giving you my email. I'll spell it. It's TODDCREAGER.com.
Mm-hmm.
My email is todd@toddcreager.com.
Great.
And I'm based in Huntington Beach, but I'm known to Skype, and I work with people all over the English-speaking world. So
No other languages yet.
nah, it's my next challenge for
Okay.
now.
And you
Yeah,
give
I do a little bit in French, but I don't think you
Un
would trust
petit
me to
peu.
be a therapist and speak in French. No.
No. So you also you were on the OWN network recently.
I was on Oprah Winfrey Network on the show on Faithful. I was a therapist working with a couple from Monterey. I got to know them and work with them, and that was quite a fun experience.
Good.
And interesting couple.
And you
Yes.
do talking head stuff just like I do.
Yes.
This is my chance to catch up with you. So
Yeah.
what else have you been doing?
Well, like I said, doing some trainings with other therapists and infidelity, and I doing a lot of work with couples, like I said, Skype and in person. Done some seminars. I'm doing some. People should get on my email list because I'm always going to be doing starting in 2015. I'll be doing 2 couples retreats a year, 4 teleseminars. I'm getting it all planned out. So go to my website and have them sign up, be on my email list, and you get all that great information.
And since they are now calling me the Asian Oprah, is there a giveaway that you can
Here's the
offer to
thing.
my listeners?
I'm going to do it this way for your listeners.
I'm Chinese and you're Jewish. Come on.
Usually I plan it. I didn't because you and I, it was so spontaneous.
I know.
Here's the thing. If they email me and they put, what do you call yourself again? The
Asian Oprah. Mm-hmm.
Asian,
I don't call myself.
what?
They were calling me that a year before I stepped into it.
Just they could write Marissa.
Okay.
Just in the subject line, Marissa.
And then
or
you'll
Dr.
get
Marissa.
something. Yeah,
Dr.
Dr. Marissa. Yeah.
They say Dr. Marissa, and just say I'm interested, and I will give a free 30-minute session just to consult, talk with them, see what their issues are, and see if I could help them.
That's
great.
great.
And I promise that even though we may not solve all the world's problems in 30 minutes, that they'll get a takeaway that they'll be glad they talked to me.
Great.
Just for your listeners.
Thank you. That's awesome.
There's other products and all kinds of things going on there on my website too, but I'm offering them a free half hour of
That
my
would
time.
be very nice. Yeah. So if you are thinking of cheating, if you have already cheated, if you are tempted to throw the cheater to the curb, it's worth a 30-minute free Todd Creager consultation, courtesy of Dr. Marissa. So be sure to check him out, toddcreager.com. Todd, as usual, it's been a blessing to connect with you.
It's been great.
I do
Been
miss our regulars, but that's okay. I know you're a great therapist because I don't have to keep seeing you.
I love it. That's
right? You did a good
Yeah.
job. You did a good
That's the
job.
truth.
But love to your wife and to your family.
Thank you.
And peace and
Thank your
blessings to
children.
you. Yes, absolutely. You're not going to believe the way they look. I need a
Wow.
shotgun. They're gorgeous. And they're beautiful
Imagine.
inside and out. But, okay, last. Oh, do a shout out. Who would you like to say peace shout out to?
Peace shout out?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I mean, since we're talking, my wife.
Oh. Say, what did you, do you want to tell her something that you haven't told her lately, or I'm sure
Oh,
you've told her?
God. You
Just
know
something
what?
good.
We've been married 30 years,
Wow.
and I could tell you right now that I am more in love with my wife. We're empty nesters now for about a few months now no kids.
Mm-hmm.
I am so looking forward to our next 30 years. You have no idea.
Aww.
Really
Okay,
true.
I'm going to ask you a horribly personal question, but I also have wondered what the best number of times to actually have sex is a week.
20 to 25. No, I'm just kidding. I would say, I think every couple's different. I think I'm not going to give you a real fixed answer. For some, they love it twice a week. For some, it's once a week. For some, it's 5 times a week.
Mm-hmm. And you?
And me, I think it varies. It varies. Sometimes
What's your average? I'm horrible.
my
I am
average.
absolutely
You are
horrible.
asking some good
I
questions.
know.
I would say the average is twice a week.
Twice a week. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That's something to shoot for.
Hey, I mean, this is the business I'm in. I got to be a transparent, especially when I'm on with Dr. Marissa.
That's right. That's right. To tell the truth, the whole truth. All right. And here's your going out applause. Thank you again. You have been tuned into a fabulous, fascinating, no holds barred, moose on the table talk about cheating in my Sexual Healing with Dr. Marissa, the new Asian Dr. Ruth series every last week of the month. And that was Todd Creager, formerly known as my marriage therapist, who is just brilliant and absolutely, if infidelity is something that's holding you back from a happy relationship, whether you're still with them or not, please do take advantage of the free consult. Just email him, Todd at toddcreager.com, and put Dr. Marissa in the subject line, and you will get that. And he didn't give a limit, so that's even better. So and if you're listening to this as a podcast, do it anyways, no matter when you're listening to this, and see how long the stretch is. It is that season of giving thanks, one of my favorite seasons. So I have a poem to you because we're doing our balance bar at the end of the show. And there's my magic wand. And my Thanksgiving poem is this: may your stuffing be tasty. May your turkey be plump. May your potatoes and gravy have nary a lump. May your yams be delicious and your pies take the prize. And may your Thanksgiving dinner stay off of your thighs. Sorry. And when I count my blessings, I count you all, my listeners, twice. That's it for today's show. If you've been waiting, if you've been waiting for the 21-day fast from complaining to resurface on December 1st for round 42, I have some great news. I am being kicking and screaming and loving to use technology now to spread the 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa on an app. So you get a chance to co-produce that with me. I am finally using GoFundMe, one of the social crowdfunding sites. So at GoFunding, do Dr. Marissa 21-day fast from complaining. $5 little donation will make you a co-producer. There's $25 level, $50 level, $100 level. You get to do something on the show. So please do check that out. I am so grateful that we're going to spread not complaining as the good life habit it is to even more people with smartphones. So please do go find me on GoFundMe. And round 42 starts December 1st. And if you have been waiting for my Balanced Tai Chi Gong class, where it's promoting inner peace one breath at a time, I am starting another class January the 10th, winter semester, at the Agape International Spiritual Center. So agapelive.com for more details, or my website, the number 4, balance.org. And next week, drum roll, I don't know if I put down, yes I did. That's a long drum roll. We are so looking forward to my guest next week. It is the one, the only, the amazing Dawn Wells, who is Marianne from Gilligan's Island. Yes, it's going to be part of my Wisdom series or my Blast from the Past series. She's not old. This woman is amazing. I want to use her skincare. She looks amazing, and she's got a great sense of humor. I actually met her probably 6 months ago or close to that at the Marilyn Monroe play. And I had Jerry Mathers on from Leave It to Beaver as a result of that meeting. And now it's time for Marianne. If you missed Jerry Mathers' show, you can get him on iTunes, as well as I've had Allison Arngrim from Little House on the Prairie. I've had Fran Drescher. So a lot of wonderful TV people who are doing fabulous things with their notoriety, and that's why she's on the show. So don't miss it. Next Tuesday, Naturally High Noon. Next Thursday, 7 p.m. on KCAA. That's the exclusively on Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance. Peace in and peace out.
When I get that feeling